I'm Paige Ann Olson. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm going to be making a series of mini quilts. It seems to be kind of a big thing in the quilting world right now. And I'm going to start with this one. It's from Primitive Gatherings. The finished quilt is going to be 14 by 14, and we're only going to need 2 fat quarters. So join me while I make this. So I have selected 2 fat quarters. One is like a cream ditzy print and then a coordinating brick colored. One is light, obviously, and one is dark. And I have taken my fabrics and I've already starched them and pressed them. So they kind of feel like paper when you starch them, which is nice. You want that stiff hand. And I have placed them right sides together. And so that's the way you're going to want to actually prepare your fabric. So we're going to use 1-inch finished triangle paper that I bought from Primitive Gatherings. And I have already cut the papers that I need. I've already cut them out. So I'm going to show you how I lay them on to the fabric, how you're going to do it as well. And the pattern gives you the diagram that tells you exactly how these should fit. One of the things is that there's not a lot of extra room, so you want to make sure you lay them out so that you have plenty of room when you're sewing these together, so that you don't run out of fabric. You don't want that. So this is how I have it upside down. This is how the diagram is supposed to go, just like this. So what I'm going to do is when I'm done placing this, just to make sure I've placed it correctly, and I have, this is the way it's supposed to go, I'm going to take the extra ones first, take them off, and then I'm going to take one sheet at a time, and I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and sew along what's called the dotted lines, because that's the sew line, and then there's a solid line, and that's the cut line. And so it's going to end up making half square triangles for us, and that's going to make that really easy, because this entire quilt, except for the center, is all half square triangles. So I'm going to go to the sewing machine and do this first sheet, and I'll show you how to do that. I've gone ahead and just stuck a couple of pins in my paper. Let me see if I can show this to you. Just to keep it from sliding around. You can kind of see they're like small little piecing pins. And I'm going to take this right over here to the machine. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to start right here, kind of at the corner. One very important thing to do is when you're sewing on the little dotted lines, you really want to keep your, make this as straight as possible, because you're going to actually tear the paper off, and you need to make sure that your stitch line is very small. So I have set my stitch length, I'm sorry, not my stitch line, my stitch length to 1.6, but you could even go 1.5, 1.4. The idea is you want to easily be able to tear the paper off of the fabric, and if you make the stitch length too long, it will tear the fabric and you won't be able to take the paper off as easily. So that's how you do that. And there's a stitch line on each. Let's go one more. And then I'm just going to turn it around. And I'm going to do that stitch line. And then I'm going to do every one of these. And I'll come back and show you exactly what that looks like. So this is what it looks like, all sewn onto the fat quarter. And I trimmed all the little threads on the back. And you notice there's a little bit of extra left over. I have to cut some small squares out of that I'm not going to use paper for. So let me show you how small those stitches are. I don't know if that's, so you can kind of see how small that is. So I'm going to go ahead and show you kind of how this works. I want to make sure you can actually see it. Let me get a little bit closer. And I'll just cut this small strip down here. And I'm cutting on the solid lines. And I'm just going to use my rotary cutter. And I know some people probably would use scissors, but you know what? I'm using my rotary cutter because it's easier and it's faster. Oops. And if you have kids, this is such a great project for them because you can have them help you take the paper off. So I'm going to go ahead, make sure you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to go ahead and finish cutting this so I can show it to you. I really want to get right there on that solid line to cut. You know, I think what's really important about this project is that you start your fabric. That's very important. Make sure your lines, when you sew, your sewn lines, your stitching is very straight. And I think then you'll find that your triangles will just be perfect. And since these are so small, it's important that you get them as perfect as you can. I'm probably moving over and you can't see, so let me, sorry. So here's this. And notice how it just kind of pops off just like that. So this is the idea. So here I have, this is what one of them looks like. And see that solid line with the little scissors? That's what I'm gonna cut. I'm gonna cut on that line right there. And then you've got your, if I can, so small, you've got your little, take your papers off, kind of just gently hold the paper so you don't tear anything. And there is your very small, let me see if I can show it to you, half square triangle, but look how nice that looks. Now the directions tell you to press toward the dark, but I think I'm going to press it open just because that's what I prefer. So I'll press this real quick and show you what it looks like. So I finished my first block, and each one of these makes 2 half square triangles. So I wanted to show you what it looks like on the back after pressing it. And I have a lot more cutting to do. I have to finish cutting the rest of this out and then basically repeating the entire process to get a bunch of these half square triangles. And then I'll be back and show you what's next. So I have completed building all of my little half square triangles that I'm going to need for this little mini quilt. And the directions have us actually building the quilt from the inside out. So the first thing we're going to do after I move these is I'm going to put 4 of these little half square triangles together. We're going to make like a little diamond shape. It's going to look just like this. And that's our very first little block right there. Well, here, let me move this down so you can actually see it. That is what it's going to look like. That's the very center of our block. So I'm going to put that together and then we'll just keep building on that. All right, so here is the middle of our star, and then I have placed the second section around it, and we're going to sew this together in rows first. Well, this row, put these 2 together, the flying geese, then sew that row together, and then put this flying geese together and that row together, just to kind of show you how that's supposed to work. And I'll be back and show you the next step. So here is this is our first 2 rows completed. And this is row number 3 that I'm going to put together next. There are a total of 6 rows. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this together, and then put this together, then put this together, and then sew them in rows. And then you'll see, I'll show you the completed row 3 when I'm done, and I'll lay out row 4 as well, so you can see how that's going to look. So here is my next row. You know, the most important thing about this is to make sure you really watch the pattern diagram to make sure you're putting it together correctly, because boy, if you're off by one single square, the whole thing is going to be off, and it's going to ruin the beautiful echoing of the star, which is what this little mini quilt is supposed to look like. So I'm very, very careful to make sure I have the right orientation for each single little piece. So what I'm going to do is what I did the last time. I'm going to sew that row together, this row together, and then I'm going to sew each one of these together and then put it together. This row, then this, and then this. Whoops. And then I'll be back to show you the next one. So here is my next row. After this, I have 2 more, but basically these are all loose, and I'm just laying it out so I can take a row at a time and go over and put it on the sewing machine and then attach it to the middle piece. And I'm gonna go ahead and finish my next couple of rows until it's complete, and I'll show you the finished little mini quilt. My Scarlet Star mini quilt is completed. I need to sandwich it, quilt it, and then bind it so I can hang it upstairs in the place I have selected. I think that there are going to be total 12 mini quilts in this series. My attempt will be to do all 12 of them. Not on this video, but I don't know that I'll do all 12. I think I have room for 12, but I may only have room for 10. So I'm not going to do all of them online for you. But I wanted to give you the idea of what these cute little mini quilts, how quickly they come together, how easy they are. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, a like, subscribe to my channel. I'd love to know what's under your needle.